Lamar Jackson made his return to the podium on Tuesday, and he sent a clear message to the Ravens, and he spoke up on the drama surrounding the team, on Todd Monken. He talked about it a lot. We're going to dive into that and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I am your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here on this midweek edition of the show on Wednesday and making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. And thank you out there to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners. If you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. We have 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage, and we have a jam-packed episode today as Lamar Jackson, he got up and spoke at the podium on Tuesday, which is a very good sign for his availability come Thursday. We'll talk about what he had to say, the message he sent, and also we talked about a couple of very interesting and very potent points that this team has had to go through over the course of the last week. We'll also dive into some Ravens trade talk, as well as if Baltimore can keep things rolling. So we'll dive into all of that here today. I want to remind everyone today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Gametime. And download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Here with me today, it is former Baltimore Ravens wide receiver and Super Bowl champion Qadry Ismail. And Q, big win is an understatement for the Ravens on Sunday. You got to treat almost every game now like a playoff game. But the fact that they did it without Lamar Jackson, it looked like a complete win. We talked about it on the Ravens Squad show, you, Sam, and I. Felt like this team got some of their swagger back and got some of their confidence back with that win.
Yeah, they did. I think anytime in the NFL you get a win, regardless of the other team's record, regardless if they're a good team, bad team, they say, and I agree, a win is a win. The way the Ravens have been playing and the lens that I have by being in the locker room with some of those home losses and then comparing it to this winning locker room experience, night and day. Like, oh my gosh, you would have thought it was a morgue when you walked in the locker room against the Texans, and obviously how that felt and just the disappointment. The Lions game is very similar, but then when you look at what they did against the Chicago Bears, I mean, the music was blasting. Guys just were, you just heard the chatter. You just heard it all. And that's good. That's what you want. I mean, you're a good football team. You're supposed to be a good football team. You are what your record says you are. You only got 2 wins, though. You got 5 losses. You got to own that, period, end of discussion. Yet, for this week, you got yourself on the right track as far as fixing things. And yes, Lamar Jackson was not in there as a starter. He was on the sideline. He was in the locker room, showing great leadership and all that. Like, I could talk for days on that. But with Tyler Huntley in there, you had a change of pace from Cooper Rush, and offense, the defense, some things on defense still, kind of like, offense wasn't perfect, but it was good. It was strong. It was solid. Tyler Huntley at one point in time only had the 1 incompletion going into half, and basically that was just a Derrick Henry drop. So other than that, I thought, he played strong and well, and here we are. Thursday Night Football is coming up right around the corner, and the Miami Dolphins, who played really good against the Atlanta Falcons, they themselves are feeling it. So I love this because whoever comes out of this game, hopefully the Ravens, this will be a boost because of the fact that, yes, from a Ravens perspective, you'll get Lamar Jackson back. Obviously, he was up at the podium and showed that he was, hey, I'm clearly healthy enough to play because I wouldn't be up at the podium. And just the bigger picture, KO, you got yourself a scenario where you get that 3rd win against an AFC opponent that was supposed to make their own kind of noise, and it's a short week at their place against a former defensive coordinator that yeah, this is right what the doctor ordered.
You got some storylines that I think are going to be extremely interesting to look at throughout the course of the week. And you mentioned, and we talked about it already over the course of the couple minutes here, Lamar Jackson was up at the podium. He made it clear that he was feeling good. He shouted out the training staff. He said it feels great. And he said that, the hamstring feels good. He actually talked about how it was the first time that, he's had something like that. And he said it was challenging. He said that they had to do whatever they could as fast as they can to get him back out there. He said, that we're here. It took a little time, but we're here. He was obviously asked a lot of questions, Q, about how close he was to play in the Bears game and who made the decisions and all that stuff. And Lamar was very much like, I don't really want to answer. He essentially was like, my body makes a choice, which is, true. I mean, his body is the thing that makes that decision. But at the end of the day, there were a couple of interesting storylines from what Lamar had to say. And I think that one of them, there have been a couple of storylines go over the course of the last week. One of them being, I guess, as people are calling it, ping pong gate in the Ravens locker room, is who made the decision to take the ping pong tables and all that out of the locker room. What should be kind of a non-story has turned into one of the bigger stories in Baltimore sports, it feels like, where for those that don't know, or we'll do a quick recap of it. There was an article put out by the Baltimore Sun, and apparently, the Ravens had the ping pong tables, video games, basketball hoops, saw that stuff taken out of the locker room. And apparently, according to the Baltimore Sun, it was the coaches. Multiple players told the Baltimore Sun it was the coaches. But then there were reports over the next day or so that, in fact, it was not the coaches, it was the players. Now, Marlon Humphrey went on his show and he kind of spilled the beans and said that it was actually, he specified Lamar Jackson was the one who did that. And so Lamar was asked about that on the podium, and he essentially confirmed that and, took not accountability, but he essentially took responsibility for it. And he said that, oh, yes, I told Kaneko, who was their equipment manager, our head equipment guy, I told him to take all the games out, like the ping pong table, and turn off the TVs. If we could have taken the TVs out, they would have been out of there too. I appreciate Mr. Steve for putting them in there for us, but we had to focus. I wouldn't say people don't take the job seriously, don't get me wrong, but I didn't feel like it was time for that. We have a lot to do. And then he was asked what it would take to get those things back in the locker room. And he said, keep winning, keep winning, keep winning. We're not going to have them for the rest of the year. So keep winning. We'll probably have them next year in the summertime for OTAs or something. But right now, that's not the focus. And again, so it's not necessarily cute to me about the actuality of, the Ravens and Lamar and all took things out of the locker room. It's about the message that Lamar is sending here to his guys. And I talked about this with the coaching staff. This might be a hot take from EQ, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this from a former player perspective and just your perspective in general. I think there is a difference when it's a coach doing this or the coaching staff doing it versus a player and one of the leaders of your football team, where I was critical of the coaching staff for doing it. I'm not going to be as critical of Lamar here, because I think when Lamar is the one doing it and stepping up, and he's not necessarily the most vocal guy on the team, but again, he made this decision here as a leader and said to his guys, look, we need to focus. If the coaching staff did it, I would personally look at it as more of a punishment. If Lamar Jackson does it, I look at it more as a rallying call from Lamar. That's just my take on it. I know that some people do disagree with that, though, and that it's not a big deal either way, which in reality, taking things out, how big of a difference does it make? Marlon Humphrey asked that question on it. He said, I don't know how much of a difference it made anyway, but they won, so I don't know. But apparently that stuff has been out of there for a little while now. So what's your take on this situation, Q, and what does it mean that it's Lamar who is now revealed to have done this and not the coaching staff?
From a leadership standpoint, you and I spoke on this. Good God, how many times? Like we've done the Locked On Ravens podcast, going back to Lamar's first days, obviously, 2021, COVID year, when, I'd come back from a game, we dive into whether or not, Lamar had the capability of throwing it to the outside receiver and, all the other things. Then we, would talk about, different veterans that were in the locker room. And I think Lamar at that time was a quiet guy, just led by example. He even said so much, yeah, I'm not a rah-rah guy. Just, go out there and do it. And that's that. That being said, we also talked about this offseason, how guys were saying Lamar is different. Lamar is talking more. Lamar is coming up to me, whoever that person is, more, because of the fact that, yes, with age comes responsibility. What is this? His 8th season, correct?
Yep.
So in his 8th season, he now realizes he's the quote unquote old man in the locker room. Not that he's old, it's just football years, dog years, old. So what that means is that, yeah, somebody has to take the mantle of responsibility and showing the way. That's him. He has to show the way. Marlon Humphrey. We know that Marlon, good, bad, and different, however you on the outside might think of it, but he's the old man in the locker room. Therefore, he's going to say things that's going to have more weight than other guys. Ronnie Stanley is going to have more weight than other guys. A guy like KVN won a Super Bowl, going to have more weight than other guys. Lamar Jackson, the ultimate weight. Lamar, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. It'll be a little tougher with Jalen Hurts on that team. I think there's some strong personalities in that locker room, but I think he carries weight. There's some guys that you can just name that are dudes that are like, yo, when I play my best, we winning. And if y'all not playing your best and I'm playing my best and we losing, some got change. So I think for those names, when Aaron Rodgers, like when things don't work, then we're gonna have to have a meeting of the minds. And it's not about yelling, it's not about like, puffing your chest up, look at me. But it is about like, yeah, my words carry weight because my actions carry weight. It was good that it came from Lamar. And yes, those little things can make a difference. Because sometimes, like I heard a couple of podcasts, brothers was talking about something like, well, so you know how it is. You only got 5 minutes, go from the locker room to the meeting. And yeah, well, in that 5 minutes, bro, you could have been looking at just the last couple of seconds of your notes as opposed to like, oh, let me get this last little bit of cornhole in. If you a veteran locker room, you handling your business, good. If you ain't, then don't do it. What you do on your own time after you leave out of the locker room, that's on you. But the tone and the tenor of professionalism, and look, we in a scenario where we just can't just get lazy for the sake of laziness, or we can't get lax for the sake of lax mentally. That was articulated with Lamar's statement about getting the ping pong table and all the other things out of the locker room.
I do think there's a little bit of a difference when it comes from a coaching staff versus from a leader of the team like a Lamar Jackson. And, at the end of the day, I'm glad we can just put this behind us. Who knew who was actually doing it? It was a he said, she said type thing. Who was doing what? Now we can just put it behind us and say, okay, Lamar Jackson has said it was him. We can all move on from it. But coming up in the second part of the show, we'll dive into more of how Lamar Jackson showed his leadership up on that podium on Tuesday, as well as came to Todd Monken's defense after Todd Monken has taken a lot of flack. So be sure to stay tuned. A lot coming your way on Locked On Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS top safety pick plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. And the show is brought to you by Gametime. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. It's frustrating. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Gametime, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100, and the app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. I love zone deals, too. You pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you can save big. And honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. We return our second segment of Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still here with you, talking with Qadry Ismail about this Ravens team. Lamar Jackson back at the podium again. A wonderful, wonderful sign for his availability on Thursday against the Dolphins. And we talked about Lamar's leadership and, him being the one to take the stuff out of the locker room, but not necessarily about that in itself, more so about the fact that Lamar is taking on that leadership role and saying, hey, enough is enough. We need to focus in. And he also talked a lot to Q. I thought this was a really cool thing because he was asked a lot of things about going on a run, the confidence in the team. And he was asked about if the team is set up to go on a run and if he feels that way. And he said, yes, but I'm not really worried about a run right now. I have to focus on Miami because you can never overlook your opponent. So we're going to focus on those guys and try to come out victorious and then move on to next week. He said that they have to execute on each and every drive, stay ahead of the sticks, put points on the board. It's all things that you want to hear, in my opinion, Q, from your leader. Because yes, the team, you can look ahead and say, hey, that schedule's looking a little soft and you can rattle off some wins here. But and I know, and everybody knows, you can never, like Lamar said, overlook your opponent. You got to go 1-0 every week. And Kyle Hamilton talked about how, they're backed in a corner right now. They have to fight and claw to get out of there. Every game is a playoff game. And that's something essentially Lamar said that John Harbaugh has been talking to the team about, how they have to fight every single week like that. So I think that this mindset is the one that when your leader has it, I think the rest of the team will follow. And that's why I'm really glad Lamar specified in that specific answer that, hey, yeah, you know what? Yeah, we're positioned for a run, but that's not what he's worried about right now.
I wouldn't be thinking ahead. I wouldn't be trying to act like I got it figured out or we got it figured out and we can, count up wins and all that. Bruh, I played so much football and recognize that the NFL, the Broncos-Giants game where the Broncos scored 33 points in the second half, in the fourth quarter, and they wound up beating the New York Giants. That game, it just made me smile because even though it was 33 points, which is crazy to think about, even in professional football, but it wasn't crazy in the sense of for the moment you think you got it and you take your foot off the pedal, the good teams know how to win. Let me say that again. The good teams, those are the teams that know how to win. Those are the teams, they don't take anything for granted. The Patriots in their dynasty, they were like, yo, we ain't taking nothing for granted. So therefore, their AFC East record was unreal with Tom Brady, but it wasn't just Tom Brady. That was the team doing what they needed to do. To the point where it got to the point that other coaches in that division, they were getting fired because they couldn't beat the Patriots. And general managers were like scurrying around trying to find draft picks to get to bolster up their teams to beat the Patriots. You cannot take anybody for granted. I don't care about if it's Miami Dolphins, if you're sitting there looking at the Vikings, you still got to go on the road and play both of those teams. You got to come back home. You got to deal with the drama back home. You just got to handle your business as a professional and cannot think the record is going to, look at that corner. This dude is a backup. Okay, and then all of a sudden you get the game. Dang, he had an interception on me. He had a pass defense. Dang. That rush in, I thought I had him. I thought, like, oh, yeah, he's soft. Dang. What happened to the softness? Homeboy just like, goodness gracious, knocked me for a loop. Special teams. Oh, man. Oh, look at that hit he put on old boy. Golly. Because you took him for granted and you didn't do what you needed to do. You know what? It's so funny. So that jersey is that game that happened down in Tampa back in 2000 that hoisted up, and there are those game programs that were sitting on our stool in our lockers for each of the 4 playoff games. We went on such a run, we lost to Pittsburgh. What is it? 9-7, I believe it was the score, and we didn't lose after that. Like, we didn't care about a team's record. Qadry, quote unquote leader of the receiving group, one of the leaders on the team, I didn't care who we were playing. I was just like, yo, man, this next opponent, I got to like get my mind right and focus in. Yep. All right, well, we won. Oh, next opponent. All right, yep. The defense, greatest defense of all time. They weren't sitting there counting like, we held Fred Taylor yet again. No, they were like, yo, bro, this is Jacksonville. The Jags, we got to like play them. That's Mark Brunell. That's Jimmy Smith. Man, that's Keenan McCardell. That's some dudes over there on offense. We got to stop them. You count your stuff after it's all said and done.
And that's why I'm very glad that Lamar took that approach and said what he had to say there, because it lines up, Q, with what you're saying there, where he has a Dolphins team. He said that, got to focus on Miami. Then you go to the next week. And that's the mindset that this team has to have right now. Lamar also talked about Todd Monken, and Todd Monken has gotten a lot of flack, and Sam and I talked about it on the show yesterday. Todd certainly felt a type of way about what's been being said about him, because he erupted with passion after the game to a group of Ravens fans. And so Lamar was asked about that, on if he still has faith in Todd Monken. And he said, quote, yes, we've been winning all these games over the years with him, about 3 years. To start off slow this season, I feel like everybody plays a part. You can't just put that on one person. And even like offensively, Q, the Ravens opened up the year with back-to-back 40-point games and put up another 30 spot on the Lions the next week. I mean, they averaged 6.5 points per game, not including last week without Lamar Jackson. That was the 2 losses before the bye week without Lamar in there. I mean, what's kind of your thought process on everything that, we've heard about Todd over the last week, and, Lamar's response to it, defending Todd essentially and say, hey, everybody plays a part in a slow start, but even offensively, I don't think it was necessarily a slow start for them. I just think that like the team as a whole started slow. That's where it's like general, not the offensive side of the ball.
I don't know if it's a slow start, more along the lines of kind of finding your way with the 3 and outs. Sure, it could be considered a slow start. But I think once you find your way, a la the quarterback play, that's when things pick up. Finding your way defensively was like Mike Green getting that sack on the critical red zone stop and kicking a field goal. So that's the finding your way that I appreciated, because it said enough is enough. Let's go out there and do what we're capable of doing, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, I get it. And look, I think that for me, the offense was not perfect for them. Right. I mean, look, certainly not. Conversion rates, third down conversion rates, red zone conversion rates. Like there were things like, personnel decisions. Like Todd Monken does and did deserve some criticism. I think a lot of people, Q, were more so shocked that all this was coming out only about Todd, and there was nothing about Harbaugh. There was nothing about Zach Orr. When I think, look, the offense certainly has had their fair share in like what has gone on with this team and the slow start or whatever you want to call it. But, that was not like, it was not the biggest issue to me. That the defense, at least what we had seen, was a bigger issue. Some of the other stuff that we'd seen, distractions and, weird off-field stuff and injuries, like all those things were bigger issues to me, where like the offense still was putting up points with Lamar in there for the most part. And, I get that you have to put points up when he's not in there too, because those wins or losses impact your season. But, Todd was calling plays with a vengeance on Sunday. I mean, we saw he was in his bag, and he let everybody know, hey, you're talking about me? Well, this is who I am, and this is what I am. And he made it clear that, look, he made it clear he's a good coordinator. And that's the thing where, like, he's shown it over the first 2 seasons. This is his 3rd year with Baltimore. So, hasn't been perfect for Todd for sure. I'm not saying it has been, but, Todd has had more good moments in Baltimore than bad, I believe, over the course of his career with the team. But coming up in the final part of the show, we'll talk a little bit about if Baltimore can keep this thing rolling and if they need to make a trade or two to keep it rolling, or if they're good the way that they are. Plus, we'll talk a little bit about the Dolphins game as well. So stay tuned. We got a lot coming your way on Locked On Ravens.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Back here, Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher, Qadry Ismail, still talking Ravens football. Ravens a short week. It's game day tomorrow. I mean, it is absolutely unbelievable. So Q and I, we're a part of the squad show here on Locked On Ravens with Sam and Joku. Usually we have those on Wednesdays at 7:30, but we're not going to do it tonight because the game is tomorrow, and we also do it post-game. So we're going to have one tomorrow after the game, and then, of course, we'll have it on Monday. So we'll do it Thursday and Monday this week, or this week and into next week. But you can find us 5 days a week plus more here on Locked On Ravens. We have daily Ravens content for you, bonus episodes on the weekends. During the game days, we have watch-alongs, instant reaction shows, obviously the squad show as well, and you also can subscribe both in video form and in audio form. It's the same show either which way. We talked a lot about Lamar Jackson, Q, and I want to spend this segment talking more about the general team. And look, I said to myself, you know what? This is a milestone today. We're recording this on Tuesday, October 28th. It's now officially 1 week before the trade deadline. And I said, who better to celebrate with than Qadry, who just loves talking trades and loves speculating about. I couldn't think of a better person to talk about speculating with. So, we've heard a lot, Q, over the course of the last couple of weeks about positions that the Ravens could be interested in. We've identified in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line, edge. We've heard reports that the Ravens are looking around for defensive help, cornerback help potentially, which is interesting considering their situation there. Just Rugiet at The Athletic, he put out an article of his thoughts on the deadline, and he named some players that could be right player, right price that included Calais Campbell, Jermaine Johnson, Jalen Phillips, Kevin Zeitler, guys that we've talked about here on this show. But to you, Q, where is your confidence level in some of these positions, particularly in the trenches? Do you feel like the Ravens, it is imperative they make a move or two to try to increase their chances of winning this division? Or do you feel like they can get by with what they have and they don't need to make any upgrades, and maybe they could even try to move off a couple of guys?
Oh, come on now. Let's not go down that road, that last statement. You can't stay pat. You're 2-5. You can't. You if you're Eric, you got to recognize that the season is hanging on by a thread. You got what was the first week. This is the first week they had all 53 guys active and available that weren't on IR, that were out there practicing. So that's not good enough. You're 2-5. I think if you are realistic and if you look at the film, the Chicago Bears, they were gashing the defense from a run game aspect of things because they couldn't necessarily match up with some of the personnel that the Bears had. Now, Ben Johnson, of course, if his team would have scored in some of those red zone trips, now the defense would have been in a tight spot. I think other good teams that have better quarterback play, that might be a little bit better skill position-wise, that could get up some of their personnel matchups, that's a problem. So defensively, interior-wise, I think it would be great. It would be great if you can get a Calais Campbell. I mean, he seems to enjoy himself out there in Arizona. It seems he's loving the leadership and all that. That would be a tough one. However, that's the type of player you need. I saw the one in particular play going back over the film. One of our fellow colleagues here in Be More kind of broke down from the All-22. The one, it was a pressure on Caleb Williams, but it was Travis Jones occupying the center and the guard. You had Kyle Hamilton literally did a beautiful stunt where it's kind of like you occupy a guy and you're hitting him as hard as you can. In this particular case, he was trying to blow up the guard. You then had Roquan Smith coming off of him. The guard was supposed to get to Roquan. The protection of the offensive line had it where the back was responsible now for Kyle Hamilton. But the back looked at it like, oh, well, Kyle's just blocking. So it freed up the stunt, the X stunt inside with Roquan Smith. The back now all of a sudden like, whoa, this guy flashed in front of me, Roquan. And then, of course, Kyle was able to go ahead and come off of that and get to the quarterback, Caleb Williams. I've seen that 101 times with Roquan and Patrick Queen. That's what made them such a dynamic duo. They actually did that earlier. I think it might have been, what was the second game of the year? Because we had Kansas City and then we had, not Kansas City, but we had Buffalo. But who was the second game?
This year, Cleveland.
So I think it was a Cleveland game. A similar stunt happened as well. And they were able to get to Joe Flacco. What's my point? Travis Jones was able to occupy two guys and take up that double team, which made the whole thing work. You need another guy when you have a heavier personnel package in there and they're gashing you because their personnel is to the advantage of what their offense is trying to do. In this particular case, the Ravens personnel was able to overcome what the Bears personnel package was out there on the field.
I agree. They have to make some level of a move, probably two. I mean, I don't know what they do, but I agree. Yeah, I'm with you. There are some guys I think, I'm not sure if they'd go after the big guys like a Quinnen Williams or Dexter Lawrence or one of those players.
I would love Quinnen Williams. Oh, my goodness. Please.
Oh, yeah.
That would be the perfect KO. That's perfect.
There we go.
Get it done.
There we go.
Get it done.
You heard it here.
I am not Mr. Speculator, but let's speculate right now. We get Quinnen Williams. Okay, come on. We might be talking about going ahead on a road trip like we had planned earlier in the preseason. Quinnen Williams, what up? Say something. I know Mike Green is saying, bro, you get Quinnen Williams. Now all of a sudden, okay, I might be able to get fancy with the spices. And I was getting warmed up with getting to the quarterback, Caleb Williams. Well, man, Quinnen Williams on my side of the ball, bro.
There we go. You heard it here first on Locked On Ravens. And look, if they make a move like that, they're already favored to win the division over on FanDuel now at 2-5, which is absolutely crazy. Those odds would probably swing a little more in Baltimore's favor. And Q, I've thought about this scenario a lot. The Ravens, to me, their path is to win the division. I think that's the path of the postseason for them. I expect both the Chargers and the Broncos to make it as wild card teams, as well as whoever loses out in the AFC East between the Patriots and the Bills. But there's a scenario where if the Ravens do win that division, and the Patriots win their division, the Ravens get the 4 seed, and the Bills get the 5 seed, and the Bills come to Baltimore during the wild card round. So what everybody thought was the AFC Championship game could actually be happening in early January instead of late. I mean, that's something I thought about, Q. I don't know, but that seems to be the path, not necessarily like the matchup with Buffalo's one path in there, but, at this point, are you division or bust with this team right now? Is that kind of where they have to go, considering their schedule and the Steelers' schedule and everybody else in the division?
Division or bust. I mean, that's just what it is. There's no margin for error. This just division or bust. Let's go ahead. You gotta sweep Pittsburgh. You gotta go ahead, hang on for dear life. Let's be real.
There we go. Division or bust. You heard it here on Locked On Ravens again. That seems to be what the path is. So they have to get their division games in order. But Q, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for hopping on. On the way out, be sure to tell everybody where they can find you, what you're working on. I know you're staying busy over there at Missile Training.
Yeah, Missile Training is missiletraining.com. Missiletraining.com is where you can find me for your human movement and sports performance training. Doesn't matter if you're an individual or group. Doesn't matter if you're a team. Doesn't matter the sport. If it's a girl sport, boys sport, if it's men's, women's, college, pro, work with all of the different kind of athletes and human movers from age 6 all the way up to 84. Check me out, missiletraining.com. And of course, you can also check me out, WJZ, each and every week, pregame, where we break down the upcoming game. And of course, Locked On Ravens every week. Kevin Oestreicher and I, we break it all down for you guys right here. Tune in. Of course, Sam and Joku, what? He, KO, and I'm telling you, before the game, after the game, we are where you are going to get all your Raven fill. Come join us. Check us out on YouTube. We'd love to interact with you.
Yep, Squad Show will be tomorrow after the game. We'll also, during game day, have the watch along. We'll also have the instant reaction show alongside with the regular 6 a.m. show. So be sure you stay tuned for everything we have on Locked On Ravens. Be sure you follow Q. Check him out over at missiletraining.com, WJZ, the whole 9 yards. So Q, appreciate you again. Thank you to everybody who watched and listened today to Locked On Ravens. Coming up tomorrow, we will have more Ravens content and coverage on game day. So be sure to stay tuned. I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.